Ethan's alarm clock buzzed sharply at 7 a.m. He groaned, fumbling to silence it, the familiar rhythm of another mundane day already weighing on him. The morning light streamed through his window, but something about it felt off. He brushed it aside, chalking it up to the restless sleep he'd had the night before. The day began as usual. Coffee brewed in the kitchen while he flipped through his emails. Nothing out of the ordinary. By 8:30, he was out the door, headed to his office. As he drove down the familiar streets, something caught his eye. A black sedan swerving erratically ahead of him. Suddenly, it veered off the road and crashed into a lamppost. The sound of metal crunching against metal sent a shiver down Ethan's spine. He quickly pulled over and ran toward the wreckage. But as he reached the car, his breath hitched. The vehicle was empty. No driver, no passenger, not even the faintest sign that anyone had ever been inside. The cracked windshield, the dented hood, it was all there, but the car itself felt wrong. He looked around, searching for someone, anyone, who might have witnessed what he just saw. The street was deserted. Shaking his head, Ethan returned to his car, trying to convince himself it was just a figment of his imagination, maybe a trick of exhaustion. He arrived at work feeling uneasy, but the humdrum routine of the office was a welcome distraction. The day dragged on until, at exactly 7 p.m., as Ethan packed up to leave, his phone buzzed. The screen lit up. Unknown caller. Hesitant, he answered. At first, there was silence. Then, a distorted voice broke through. "You need to stop." "Stop what?" Ethan demanded, his voice trembling. But the line went dead. Ethan drove home in silence, his mind racing. The events of the day, the crash, the empty car, the cryptic call, played over and over in his head. When he got home, he barely managed to eat dinner before collapsing into bed, eager to sleep away the strangeness. But when his eyes opened, the blaring alarm clock greeted him. 7 a.m. He stared at the clock, confused. It wasn't déjà vu. He felt it deep in his gut. The morning unfolded exactly as it had the day before. Same emails, same coffee, same black sedan swerving into the lamppost. This time, he didn't pull over. He drove past it, refusing to be dragged into whatever eerie situation was playing out. At work, his unease grew. Every detail, every moment, mirrored the day before. And at 7 p.m., his phone buzzed again. "You need to stop," the voice repeated, colder and more insistent this time. Ethan barely slept that night. When he did, he dreamed of the crash, the twisted metal, the empty seats, the black mist that seemed to rise from the wreckage. When he woke up, the alarm buzzed. 7 a.m. The loop continued, day after day. No matter what Ethan did, he couldn't break free. By the fifth loop, his reality began to crack. People around him started behaving strangely. His barista handed him his coffee with trembling hands, whispering, "You don't belong here." His co-workers stared at him with wide, unblinking eyes, muttering under their breaths when they thought he wasn't listening. The worst was his reflection. As Ethan brushed his teeth one morning, his reflection froze, staring back at him even as he moved. Slowly, it smirked. "You think you can escape this?" it hissed. Ethan stumbled back, shattering the mirror in panic. When he looked again, it was whole, and his reflection mimicked him perfectly. On the seventh loop, Ethan had had enough. He decided to confront the black car directly. He parked his car in the middle of the road, waiting for it to appear. And just as before, it came, speeding recklessly, swerving, crashing into the lamppost. But this time, when he approached, the car didn't disappear. Instead, it dissolved into a swirling black mist that engulfed him. Ethan's vision blurred. his surroundings fading until he was standing in total darkness. In the void, faces appeared, dozens of them, pale, hollow-eyed, and staring straight at him. He recognized them. Memories he had buried clawed their way to the surface. Years ago, Ethan had been driving home after a late-night party. He'd had a few drinks, but he'd thought he was fine. He wasn't. His car swerved off the road, colliding with another vehicle. He had walked away with a few scratches, but the other driver hadn't been so lucky. The faces in the mist were the ones he had hurt, the ones he had tried to forget. "You can't run from this," a voice boomed, echoing around him. "I'm sorry," Ethan sobbed, falling to his knees. "I didn't mean to break free," the voice interrupted. "You must face the truth. Only then can you move forward." Ethan closed his eyes, tears streaming down his face. He whispered apologies into the darkness, promising to make amends, to never forget. When he opened his eyes, the alarm clock was buzzing. 7 a.m. But this time, the sunlight streaming through the window felt warm. The weight in his chest had lifted, replaced by a quiet resolve. The loop was broken, but the memories, they would haunt him forever.